the main express engine of the Northwestern Railway. If he's ill or away, Henry often pulls it, though Boko, Bear, or even Rebecca also take it. James used to cover for Gordon as well. However, as time went on, the Fat Controller regulated James to either shunting in the yard or to help with the goods traffic.
It's not fair. Why can't I take the express?
There's just too many coaches on the train now, James. You're just not strong enough to take the train on your own.
You want to talk, Gordon. You've been going to the works a lot more often these days. If I didn't know any better, I think you're becoming out of shape.
Out of shape? Clearly you've forgotten that every engine gets tired eventually. Little James, I'm as fit as I ever was. I just need time to rest, that's all.
Whatever you say, Gordon. But one day, I tell you, I shall be given the opportunity to take the express again.
Don't try lying to the station pilot again. The Fat Controller will hear about it, and you may not be given another chance at all.
James seethed with fury for the rest of the evening. He was determined for a chance to take the express and prove Gordon wrong. Every day, however, it seemed to James that his chance to take the express would never come. One day at Knapford Station, as James was busily shunting about, there was a problem.
Oh dear. I'm afraid there's no engine available to take the express today. Henry already left the first passenger train. And not only has Gordon went off to be checked up, but Boko is also away having his engine overhauled. Afraid I'm going to have to ask an engine from the other railway to go and take it.
No, please, sir. I could take the express, sir, if you let me. I mean, I'm only roosted for shunting right now, sir.
The Fat Controller pondered for a moment.
Very well, James. But I'm counting on you to deliver the passengers safely. The train could be too much for you to handle, so don't worry about getting to the stations on time.
James wasn't worried too much about this, but was determined that the express would run on time. As soon as he coupled up to the train, the passengers climbed aboard the coaches, and the guard blew his whistle.
All aboard!
Come along, we must be off! Come along, we must be off!
It was a little hard to get the train started, but it wasn't long before James was off with the express. The train ran well until James made it to Gordon's Hill. He felt the weight of the coaches here, and he began to struggle.
I can do it! I can do it!
Steady on, James. Don't strain yourself.
James tried to conquer the hill, but he just couldn't. He found himself grinding to a halt before he could even reach the top.
Bother!
Oh, never mind, James. You gave it your best try. We'll just have to call for a banker to get us over the hill.
It wasn't long until Edward arrived to help the train over the hill. By the time James arrived at Vicarstown, the express had arrived rather late. As the passengers exited the express, James couldn't help but notice how many of the passengers glared at him. Some he could have sworn were grumbling about him beneath their breaths.
Fancy needing to call for a banker. You'll never be as good as me or Gordon. We never have to call for Edward to push us up the hill.
Now, Henry. James did do his best to manage, and while he was late, it doesn't mean that...
It won't happen again, because I am as good as Gordon, and I am fit for the express. You'll see me if I'm not tomorrow. I'll bring the passengers to the station on time, and in fact, I'll be early.
Please, James, I think you're making a big mistake.
No, Edward. Let James prove his point. I accept your little challenge, James. Good luck tomorrow.
Pah! I won't be needing luck at all.
The next day, James collected the express coaches and waited for his passengers to climb aboard. As he waited, Henry departed with the local passenger service.
Don't get stuck on the hill again, James.
You bet I won't.
James was soon on his way with the express and was determined to show up Henry. James flew through Crosby with his coaches clattering behind him.
Take it easy, old boy. We have to stop at Wellsworth.
When the station drew near, James tried to apply his brakes, but the heavy coaches bumped into him and pushed him beyond the platform. Once James came to a stop, he reversed the coaches back to the platform, rather embarrassed. While the passengers at the station climbed aboard, James could hear the passengers on board the train complaining bitterly amongst each other.
I'd better call for a banker while the guard and Paul examine the train.
What? Whatever for? I could pull the train up the hill.
It's not worth the risk, James.
But we'll be late, and I don't want to disappoint the passengers.
James's driver tried his best to convince James that it was a bad idea, but James remained adamant. As soon as the guard blew his whistle and the fireman climbed aboard, James headed towards Gordon's Hill. James charged at the hill with all his might. James's driver was nervous.
Come on, we can do it. We can do it.
James's driver was nervous.
We should stop, James. You're going to strain yourself.
Before James could say anything, the front coupling of the first express coach broke away from him. As the express rocketed down the hill, the guard scrambled to screw the brakes of his coach on. The train came to a grinding halt at the bottom of the hill. As James reversed to meet the coaches, he knew that he was in deep trouble. Later that day, Gordon returned from the works. As he puffed into Timoth's sheds, he saw the doors for one of the shed berths closed. Henry was also there. He greeted Gordon as he reversed in.
Oh, hello, Gordon. Welcome back.
Hello, Henry. Why is one of the shed doors... Oh my. Is that James?
You probably don't want to know.
Gordon, rather curious, rolled into the shed and saw James at the very back. James's eyes were shut, and tears streamed down his face.
James, what's the matter?
You were right, Gordon.
Right about what?
I wasn't strong enough to take the express. I'm not fit for it like you or Henry. I'm never going to be as good as you.
James sobbed. Gordon looked at the mixed traffic engine with full sympathy.
You may not be as strong or as fast as me or Henry, but you're one of the most reliable engines of the railway. You may not be capable of taking the express right now because of the extra amount of coaches added to the trade. But one day that amount will drop and you'll be able to handle it.
But I messed up big time today. Many of the passengers were cross with me even today. Many of them were hurt because of me. Although the fat controller will never trust me with the express again.
You know full well the Fat Controller won't ever do that. You may not be able to please everyone, James, but no matter how big or small accidents happen, we just have to learn from them and not make them again. Don't dwell on your mistakes, little James.
And with that, Gordon gave James a reassuring smile, and James gave him a small one in return. Little did any of them know that the Fat Controller had heard everything and began to come up with a plan to help with the situation. But that's another story.